Hello fellow Silver Saints, I hope you are doing well. My name is Ashley and this is the Library of a Silver Saint where we talk all things books. How are you doing? It's Wednesday when I'm recording and it's the hump day, you know? It's Wednesday hump day, halfway through the work week. It feels like that. I'm exhausted. You know, we move and groove, and you know, all we have to think is that when we finish our days at work, we might have other things to do, but we might get time to read, and that makes it all worth it. So anyway, hi, how are you doing? Make sure you get a beverage, come sit with me whilst we do the best thing ever, which is talk about books. Oh my gosh, the biscuit tea is so needed this morning. My goodness. I've had a coffee, but both sources of caffeine are needed today. I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different today, and that is to talk about some books that I absolutely love and never leave my brain, but they are not fantasy books. Obviously, primarily I talk about, it tends to be fantasy or maybe some sci-fi, generally some sort of darker books. Whereas, I mean, it doesn't mean that these aren't dark necessarily, but I generally talk about a lot of fantasy. So I wanted to talk about some non-fantasy books that I absolutely adore. I'm just going to hop straight in because I don't want to take too much time and waffle on, but I generally now read a lot less sort of standard, you know, literary fiction or just like romances, anything like that. I don't tend to read a lot of those anymore, but every now and then I do read one, and it sort of sends me back to a few years ago when that was all I read and I loved it. And it reminds me that actually there are still so many books that aren't fantasy that I still really want to get to because I do love them. So I just wanted to talk about some of those. And I have to say, I've chosen 5, but I have cheated a little bit because 2 of them are by the same author. It's fine. Don't judge me. It's fine. The first book, oh, hello. You just perked up suddenly. And he says, good morning. The first book I want to talk to you about, I'll break up the same author. The first book I want to talk to you about is one I've spoken about many times before. You could probably guess it before I even hold it up to show the screen, show the camera. The first book I want to talk to you about is A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. I've spoken about it so many times before. This book holds such a special, close place in my heart. I started my In Real Life book club maybe 3.5 years ago, something like that. Now it's been quite a while. Oh my gosh, he's so snoozy this morning. He's really snoozy. And this was the first book that we read in my book club. And it was my first book that I read by Fredrik Backman. It utterly consumed me. And I think a lot of the members of the book club all said that this is still one of their favourite book club picks that we've ever had. So, A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. This is a story about Ove, and he is a seemingly very grumpy, not old man, but a pretty old man. And he is very set in his ways, and he's very traditional, and he's seen as very cold and grumpy and standoffish. And he's alone. He's alone. But we find out through the story that he hasn't always been alone, but he is currently alone. I think we all know an Ove. I think that's partly why I liked this book so much and found it so relatable, is that I think we all know an Ove or have met an Ove. And for me, Ove was my granddad. You know, quite a grumpy man sometimes, but not always, with a lot more to him. Ove is very set in his ways. You know, he leaves the house every morning to go and do like a check of the place where he lives, and checks that, you know, no cars aren't parked where they shouldn't be and things like that. And he's very set in his ways, and he's very methodical about things. And his life changes one day when some new neighbours move in. And I think they see something in Ove, they see something in his life, they see that he's hurting. They decide to not let him be sad and lonely anymore, and they kind of force themselves into his life, but in the best way possible. And at the beginning, Ove doesn't probably want this to happen, but gradually lets it happen, and you just see this beautiful relationship bloom, and you see Ove change, and it's beautiful. I've said it so many times, Fredrik Backman is able to pack such a punch emotionally. He is able to write about the most mundane aspects of just humanity, human life, daily life, and the human condition. But just not only does he hit the nail on the head every time, but he also writes it so profoundly. But it's nothing that we don't already know, but he just has such a way of just writing about people, just humans and daily life, and it reads like poetry. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It will make you laugh. It will make you cry, hopefully, but in a good way. Beautiful. I will always recommend this book. I will always love this book, and I really want to reread it one day. My second book is also by Fredrik Backman. I'm a Fredrik Backman lover. I will always buy his books. I still have a few I need to read. I'm currently reading My Friends, which is his latest release. I'm reading it with my partner. Oh, I'm loving it. I just love it so much. But the second book by him that I want to talk to you about is Anxious People. I had to buy the US cover because it's so much better than the UK cover. Look at that. I love it. I managed to get it secondhand. I adore it. This is, again, just an incredible story about the human condition, about the mundanities of human life and human nature, but just written in such an incredible way. I would also say that I devoured this. I read this in like a couple of days. This has a bit of mixed media in, so you've got sort of interviews and things going on in here as well. It's very interesting. So the main premise of this story is that it is essentially a bank robbery that goes wrong. It goes wrong. The robber, is then stuck in a very sticky situation. So it's kind of bank robbery that goes wrong turns into hostage situation that isn't really a hostage situation. And it goes from there. And you get the points of view and the voice of lots of different characters. So you get the robber, you get people that work in the bank, you get the police that are looking into this as a case, and the people that are caught up in the hostage situation. You've got all sorts of like different viewpoints in this story. I won't say any more than that, but it talks about so many themes: grief, love, pain, illness, mental health. There's so much that's packed into here. Just so many themes, but they're just discussed in, some people might sort of say like it's laid on a bit thick, but I personally love it. I love the way that Fredrik navigates these sorts of themes and topics and how he discusses them, because he kind of treads that line between making it really funny and weirdly cozy, but then also utterly devastating at the same time. But he just treads that line so well, and I adore it. So I love this. I love this book, and it is really funny. It did really make me chuckle. Fredrik's voice is it's brilliant. I love this book. Then I've mentioned this again recently. We have Small Pleasures by Claire Chambers. This I read a good couple of years ago now, so I'm a little bit hazy on it. But I would happily reread this. This is as I say, contemporary fiction. It's kind of historical fiction. I think there is also an element of this which is actually true history, not the main premise of the story, but another aspect. And I think it's mentioned at the end. But if you read it, then you can look into that. The ending was quite controversial for a lot of people, by the way, but I didn't mind it. I really enjoyed this book. I loved it. So Small Pleasures is about a lady, I've forgotten her name. Okay, 1957, the suburbs of Southeast East London. Jean, that's it. I'll give you the summary because it will do better than me. Jean Swinney is a journalist on a local paper, trapped in a life of duty and disappointment from which there is no likelihood of escape. When a young woman, Gretchen, contacts the paper to claim that her daughter is the result of a virgin birth. When I've described this before, I said that she was the result of a virgin birth, not the daughter. Whoops. It is down to Jean to discover whether she is a miracle or a fraud. As the investigation turns her quiet life inside out, Jean is suddenly given an unexpected chance at friendship, love, and possibly happiness. So you've kind of got two stories here. You've got Jean uncovering this case and trying to figure out if Gretchen is telling the truth about her daughter being born of a virgin birth, or if it is this miracle, if she's telling the truth, or if she's just crazy and making a false claim. And then you have this other side where Jean, who has been lonely and lives alone and doesn't really do much, has an opportunity with love, and it's really beautiful and tender, and there's a lot of yearning in here, which I really adored because it felt really realistic and I loved it. But I also loved the sort of mystery aspect to it. And then it is you do get quite a lot of gut punches in this. It is quite emotional. So I mean, it's perfect for me. Emotional destruction. Come on, it's my thing. It's what we love. Yes, so I would highly recommend this. If it sounds like your thing, I loved it. I know a lot of people found some parts of it controversial. Not controversial. I think a lot of people found the ending controversial. I personally didn't have a problem with it. I liked it. Okay, this one I don't think I've spoken about on here. But this is one of my favourite books of all time, and I've never spoken about it. Probably because it's not fantasy. But I recommend this to everybody. The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I adore this book. Okay, I might have to read the summary again, but from my memory of it and how much I loved it, this is about two sisters. They are identical twins, and something happens to them and they go two different paths. They take two different paths in life. I think around the age of 16, they take two different paths. And one chooses to live her life in one way and the other chooses to live her life in a very different way. I'll read the summary. Stella and Desiree are identical twins growing up together in a small southern black community until at age 16 they run away. Years later, everything about their lives is different. Their families, communities, and racial identities. One sister lives with her black daughter in the same southern town she once tried to escape. The other sister secretly passes as white, and her husband knows nothing of her past. Still separated by many miles and just as many lies, the fates of the twins remain intertwined. What will happen in the next generation when their own daughter's storylines intersect? Yeah, so the sisters, they could pass as white. One chooses to pass as white and goes and lives a life as a white woman, and the other sister chooses to live her life as a black woman. And their lives then kind of come crashing back together later on in the book. But this is just written really beautifully. Obviously, so many discussions. There were a lot of discussions on gender, but obviously huge discussions on race and identity. I just thought it was absolutely breathtaking. I thought it was so beautifully written. I love the story. I love the characters, what they go through. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I think I reread this. I think I reread it pretty soon after reading it, but that was years ago. So I need to read it again, but I would highly recommend this. She also wrote another book called The Mothers, which is also really good, but not as good as this one, in my opinion. Sorry. But yes, The Vanishing Half. I loved this. Another book that I really want to talk about very quickly is, I don't have a physical copy of it, but it is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is a historical fiction novel that is set in World War II. I loved this book. I want to reread this book. I've also read quite a few of Kristen Hanna's books. I've read The Nightingale, The Women, and The Great Alone. I'm still yet to read The Four Winds, Firefly Lane. There's a few that I'm still yet to read, but the ones I've read, all of them have been 5 stars. I've adored them. The Nightingale really stands out. That one and The Great Alone really stand out. The Nightingale is about sisters, 2 sisters who live in France during the time of World War II. And again, it's the similarity to The Vanishing Half, where they get separated at some point and they both choose to live very, very different lives. And because of that, their relationship is incredibly fractured. One sister chooses to join the effort to be sort of like a rebel, I guess. And the other one doesn't. She chooses to live a more quiet life, but maybe not as bold of a life. She chooses the safe option. And because of that, they really disagree. But it's so beautifully written. It's so beautifully written. The relationship between the sisters is so dark. It's so layered, and it's very emotional. And because the war, it's not just about their relationship. Obviously, it's about the devastation of the war and how many people it impacted and how many families it impacted, but also how it impacted people who were neither on necessarily the opposing sides of the war. You kind of have people that are stuck in the middle and have to make choices based on that through fear. And that was really intense and beautifully done. So I absolutely adored The Nightingale. I'm sure many of you have read it because it is an incredibly popular, famous book. I utterly adored it. It's popular for a reason. So yeah, that was a really quick video. There's just a few non-fantasy, non-sci-fi, non-dark, but they're all a little bit dark in some ways, books that I absolutely adore and I never talk about. So I just wanted to share those with you. What is your favourite non-fantasy read? Please tell me. I would love to know. I'd love to know more. I'm also hoping to do a few more of these videos. I'd like to talk about my favourite audiobooks, some of my favourite non-fiction, all of those kinds of things. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Excuse a very tired Ernie in the background. He's got that hump day feeling too. I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please do give it a like. I'd be so grateful. It really helps me out. And if you would like to become a firm member of the Library of a Silver Saint, then please do hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you here, join the family. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day. and I'll see you again soon. Bye.